All right, folks.
So what I wanted to talk about, kind of couple different aspects. I think many people here are familiar with using IG Publisher. It's one of the two main tools for designing implementation guides, but there's sort of two different aspects to it, two different parts to it. One is designing your implementation guide, and then the other part is actually publishing it. When we use a tool like FHIR, it really focuses on that second part. I would say it draws the line at a different place than IG Publisher does. IG Publisher lets you do your profiling and your page design in one mode of the tool, and then in a different mode of the tool, move it up to a website or do what's necessary to get it ready for a website. With FHIR, you do your profiling in another tool, and whether that's IG Publisher or something like Forge, and then you go to the FHIR website, and there you build out your publication, your text pages, and it comes along with a site, a public place that you can make it available. And that's what most people, or a fair number of people within Canada, have been doing. But we wanted to talk about what this other approach is through IG Publisher, and look at what that, how we would do that, and how, what some of the challenges, what some of the benefits of it are. Jean, you and I were supposed to talk this week. We never got around to it, but you're here to, I guess, add color as we go through it, because I know you've been through this process several times, both on HL7 implementation guides and outside that scope, right?
Yep, I've done it for BC and tons for HL7, so yep.
Okay. So I'm gonna just paste a bunch of Michael, did you get the links I sent you?
Yeah, I did, Elliot. So I don't have like a deck necessarily to share. I can paste them into the chat, but I can also just put them on the forum after the call, whatever you prefer.
I can put them on. I can send a message to the forum with these. So one of the challenges with using IG Publisher is that it's something that has evolved over time. Content has moved from doing things one way to doing things another way. And so it's not a commercial product, and we've had some discussions around that. It's just like, a lot of what HL7 is doing. It's supported by the community, primarily led by Graham, but it's supported by the community. So in order to do things, you need to find all the right Confluence pages on the HL7 Confluence site, or the right conversations in Zulip to find out how to do things. So it's not particularly well documented. So that's our first challenge that we have to deal with and accept. But on the other side of things, It is in my opinion, it's got the best error checking. It is most integrated with how HL7 views publication. It's got all of those things that, all the canonical resolution, and it's how HL7 wants implementation guides done. And I guess that's equivalent to saying how Graham wants implementation guides done. But so the advantage and the disadvantage of it is that it is up to date with latest HL7 best practices. Which means, for example, this week, there's some challenges because they're in the process of changing some templates and how IG Publisher generates the internal links between the internal references within an implementation guide. So we're going to see. Hopefully, everything I'm drawing on is being updated to use these new links, and we're not going to get problems. But yeah, so before I jump in, what I want to do is let's go through the process of what we would need to do to publish the CA baseline as if we were using IG Publisher. Any questions before I get started? Okay. I'm going to.
So, just to clarify, the IG Publisher is one step in a stack of how we develop implementation guides, and it's can work with more than one method of creating the content to develop that implementation guide. For instance, some projects use FHIR shorthand, but there are other methods to get to the point where you can run the publisher.
Right. Yeah, so you can use FHIR shorthand to generate your templates. You can author them in JSON or XML. You can use a tool like Forge to author them graphically. There was a Trifolia on FHIR, but I think that product is now being deprecated. They aren't supporting it anymore.
Oh, that's news to me because I used it not that long ago. But
yeah,
yeah, just a few months.
Lantana
sent out they sent out an email saying they were sunsetting it, so they weren't spending any resources on it anymore.
Yeah, it was about a year ago that I used it. So yeah.
Okay.
I'm not surprised they're sunsetting it, actually.
So you've got different ways of generating the profile content. You've got different ways of generating the text content, whether that's using Markdown or, again, authoring it in HTML. I think there may be one or two other ways of doing it. Several ways are supported for doing diagrams, things like that. But the IG Publisher can take all of that content in the various forms. It runs it through its IG generation process, and you end up with a directory that contains the layout of a single IG website. And so what I've got here is, can you guys see my screen? Is it readable?
Reasonably.
Okay. So I'm running the IG Publisher on the CA baseline project that we've got in GitHub. And we can see it's running through, and it's going to generate the document, the website. Let's see what. This is going to take a minute. And it's got some errors, and those are some errors either in our IG, or as I said, we've got some changes going on with the publisher itself this week that might be causing some problems. Now, the version of CA baseline that we've got in GitHub that's uses IG Publisher. This is right now we're just using it for generating the profiles, and then Sheridan is taking this content, uploading it to Simplifier, which is where we are making it, exposing it to the public. So this is, although it does work with IG Publisher is not how we are currently publishing.
Elliot, I thought there's also a publication on FHIR.org using IG Publisher.
Yes. So we've got it set up so that whenever something gets checked into GitHub, it runs the IG auto build, and the current build goes up to FHIR.org/build/IGs/blah, blah, blah. That is exactly the content that we're about to look at. So this is what I've built on my local machine. You can see it's generated. I thought I had the full date. Yeah, there it is. So it's generated right now. And it's got some text here. It's got our artifacts. But this was done right now. So but it says local development build. And if I click on C directory of published versions, it's gonna fail because we don't have, there are no other published versions right now. But let's see what it would take now. The problem is if I look at some of these things, like let's go into the table of contents. These links are all, if you can see at the bottom of my screen there, they're all to my local build. And links between everything in here is all, either it's to things like hl7.org, or it's to things within this IG. But, if I click on this, it's not going to work. So let's update and see if we can do this. Okay, so I have copied to my local machine the FHIR web templates GitHub repo, the IG history GitHub repo, and the IG registry GitHub repo. And so I'll just, if you wanted to do this on your own machine, oops. those would be the GitHub commands or the Git commands to clone those things. IG registry is the published list of implementation guides. So we want, when we publish this, we want it to be found by all the tooling. It needs to get into these documents. IG history is a set of templates for generating the history page of an implementation guide. So you know how a current, like if we look at US Core, it says, here's the current version of US Core, and here's the previous one, and here's version 1.1, and here's version 1.2, and you can jump between all of them. That's what's in the IG history repo. You're going to want to actually clone that repo, make your own copy, update it with all of your styling. So if you've got a corporate style, corporate template, you'd update this to reflect your colors and fonts and whatever, icons. And then there are these templates, which again will be used to customize the various files that get generated according to your template. So the first thing I want to do is I go into the IG registry. And I have created a branch on here called HL7CA publication. What we'll do is any changes that get made to the registry files, we'll commit. We do a pull request against the GitHub version of it, and it gets pulled up, and someone will approve it and gets pulled into the regular processing. Okay. I'm going to make a directory called publication. And okay. I'm now going. Oops. Right. What did I miss? Oh. Make a directory called templates. Now let's try this. There we go. Right. There. Perfect. Okay. So we've copied the templates file from the FHIR web templates repo into our publication directory. And we would go in and we would customize these templates according to our corporate or affiliate styling. Okay. We also want to do we're going to create a file that says, here's how we are setting up our publication. Okay. So our website is, our base URL for this website is hl7canada.ca/FHIR. We are using an Apache server. The reason that the publication system needs to know the kind of web server we're using is that it generates different kinds of redirects depending on the platform. There's about 4 different server types, and so there's Nginx, there's Apache, there's IIS, and I think there's one more. I can't remember, Tomcat maybe. We say what we want to use for our search template and index template, and that will be based relative to a templates directory that we'll specify later. These are going to be the names of 2 feed files that we will be creating. And the files in this website are laid out according to these layout rules. Anything that matches hl7.fhir.ca slash or dot anything, the canonicals that get used for those websites or those IGs follow this pattern, and in my publication, those implementation guides get put in a directory that corresponds to the 4th component of this pattern. You could do that if we wanted, but it gives you some flexibility on how you generate your directories. Okay, so that's created. The next thing we do is package feed.xml. And so this is essentially the RRS feed for the things generated from this site. It's a little strange. It needs an empty item at the bottom of it. But that's just, there's a problem with the tooling. It should be able to create one of those on its own. But we've got, here's the website that you can find things at, and so on. Okay. There is a very similar file called publication feed. And for it, I'm just going to take this and I'm going to copy it over. And the name in the link element just changes to publication feed. One of these package feed is for the list of packages for the website or for our IGs, and publication feed is for the list of home pages for each of the implementation guides. All right, we need a content for the package registry. So I'm just going to paste this in. We run publisher with the command generate package registry, and here's where we want it to generate it. And it can't find my publisher. Where do I have a publisher? Right. Let's try that again. There we go. And so it should have created where did it create it? Web root package registry. Package registry. Oh, I know why I'm not seeing all the files. I haven't saved that one. That would do it. Okay, so right now we have no packages published on this website, so it's just an empty file. Why we need to generate the simplest of the files, the setup files, and have to manually do all of the other ones, I don't know. Okay, so that's what we need to set up our publication location. If we switch back to baseline, it needs a file in there called publication request. So what are we publishing? We're publishing FHIR baseline, FHIR.ca baseline. We'll call it version 1.1.0. We want it published to this URL. We're going to say it's a milestone release. One of the things you do when it's a milestone release is that now becomes the version that you get when you go to hl7canada.ca/FHIR/baseline. You don't have to go into a specific version looking for it. It becomes the current version. This is a release. We're going to describe it as a milestone release. This is our first publication, so it's going to do some extra stuff to set some things up. Afterwards, we would, for any further publications of different versions, this is false. And I've just filled these other things in. We would also go into input CA baseline and make sure that things like the version in here there's a status somewhere. I can't find it. But make sure that all agrees with what we've just said. And do another build. It should give us back no new QA errors. I am expecting some QA issues with this. Theoretically, we should be cleaning those up before we publish. But since this is just pretend, and we know that there's issues right now, that's okay. When it's finished, we can go look at the QA report. We won't have one till this is done. check it out. When you do a build with the publication info in it, or this publication request info here, it puts some additional stuff at the start of the QA report. And so we'll just double check all of that. You can check in this publication request into your source control. There's different opinions as to whether it is a better idea to recreate it from scratch so you don't have out of date information versus generating saving it there so that you don't make a mistake with regenerating it each time you want to do a publication. I'm more on the line, more behind keeping it and just updating it each time. Okay, so if we come back here and we look at the QA report, we'll see that there is a publication request in the QA report, and we've put in all of this information. It's going to say, I tried to check to see what packages were listed here, but couldn't find them. That's okay, because we haven't actually published yet. It's also saying that this IG has never been published, so the version should start with 0. Yes, usually, except we have previously published it to simplifier. Proposed path for this publication should be a canonical. I think it is. Should be the canonical. Oh, that's where we had a problem. Is it HL7 Canada or is it Dash Canada or is it HL7? Right. Right. Huh. I would need to track that down, figure out what's going on there. Jean, you have a quick debug for me? No. Okay.
Sorry, I had to come off of mute. Proposed path for this milestone should usually be canonical with either sequence or version appended.
And it appears to be.
Yeah, you don't.
Canada.ca.
You don't have
You don't have the sequence or you don't have a version after it.
I do.
Proposed path has it, yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen before too, so I tend not to worry about it.
All right. I wonder if it's just because this is the first publication.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So now we get into the real fun part. We go back to publication, and from the publication directory, we run go publish. So yeah, we are going to run publisher in Go Publish mode. We're going to get our content from baseline. It's going to go into the web root directory. We're going to get our history content from the history templates from the IG history directory. We're going to update the registry information in this directory. We have a temp directory, and we're going to use the templates for header, index, preamble, postamble, and search form from this directory. And we let it run. And it's going to go, and it's actually going to build the implementation guide twice. Because what it's doing is it's now changing the URLs to reflect what it would be on the web when it's published. That's a new one. Hope that doesn't get in the way. So as you can see, this is a lot more technical. You have a lot more control, but there's a lot more things that can go wrong compared to just doing this on Simplifier. But when we're done, my personal feeling is this is, if we look at US Core, if we look at many of the other national implementation guides, if we look at the HL7 implementation guides and many third-party ones, this is how they're doing it. I like this tool. I like how I can read a IG Publisher implementation guide and how it renders things compared to how things show up on Simplifier. So it's a bit of a, what do you prefer?
It does produce content that's more familiar with what the broader community expects to read.
Yeah, that's my feeling.
I do think the other thing is it's easier to use with FHIR shorthand and those more code and source code control based approaches to authoring, because we have the authoring part and we have the publication part.
Right, and we're really only looking at the publication part right now.
Yes.
Go ahead.
From a Canadian point of view, we have, and not all of us are doing this yet, have been asked to publish everything on Simplifier, but we can still publish to Simplifier from these GitHub repositories if we decide that's where our hosting and publication environment is.
Yeah, Simplifier has actually made a couple of advancements in the last few years. They can pull content directly from GitHub. So if you want to do your versioning and source control in GitHub, they can pull directly from it. And the other part is they actually can consume FHIR shorthand. So bring it in, you write your stuff in FHIR shorthand. That's not good. Write your stuff in FHIR shorthand and pull it into Simplifier, and it will generate your profiles for you. That really is not what I wanted. Shoot. and wasn't what I ran into yesterday when I did a dry run. So what did I make? What kind of mistake did I make? Oh, good. Excellent. Whoops. Okay. Well, that's going to put a bit of a cramp on our style here. Let's try. This may either help or totally mess us up. I'm going to try grabbing the latest publisher, grab the latest templates, see if that fixes things. All right. So I've just cleared out all of my caches. Hopefully it should be pulling down a new version of the templates, regenerating everything, and hopefully this time we won't run into those errors. Or I have made a mistake somewhere. Eric, you asked, I think you mentioned graphing. Was it to do a visual representation of links between resources? No, what I meant was you can do diagrams. There's built-in support for Plant UML and for Mermaid notation within IG Publisher. So if you want to use those for your diagrams, you can put the source for the diagram in there and it will generate the content. Or you could, if you want to do something else, you can do use whatever diagramming tool, whatever UML tool, whatever you want outside the IG publisher, and then just put into your input images directory the resulting JPEG or SVG or whatever. So that's how you know, two different approaches. I think with Simplifier, you can only upload an image. Is that what you were asking?
Yes, it was.
Excellent.
I guess I kind of hope that it would build images from profiles. But seems would be nice if it did that from shorthand or something.
I mean, the relationships between the profiles is gonna, I don't know what that kind of diagram would look like. It's going to be a constrained set of the diagrams that you've got in the base spec itself. Let's try this again. I haven't really used FHIR. So I'm not sure what its diagrams look like, or you know, how it might integrate into another process. I don't like these exceptions that we're getting, but they are several. That one that came up was a problem with CA baseline that we should fix up. It's not a problem with the publication. Exception generating. Well, thank you for showing up, everybody. I'm not sure where we can take this from here.
I guess the question might be, what drove us down this path of looking at a demo of how the publisher works, and then what information we needed to further the whatever conversation we were having that spawned this.
Yeah, so I think it came out of as we're looking at moving over to HL7 Canada canonicals and setting up an HL7canada.ca website. Should we be publishing to that website? Should we continue to be using Simplifier for HL7 Canada publications? Is it, you know, InfoWay is paying for the Simplifier license for all the jurisdictions and HL7 Canada is my understanding. Oh, well, here's good to know. Thank you. So the question is, the thought was, let's look at what this publication process is like, and compare.
Yeah, I expect, for both your and Jean's experience, that once you've got most of this set up, it runs much smoother than it might sort of
Hello.
at the stage of a demo. Go ahead, Jean. Jean, you're on mute.
I think he was just answering the phone or something.
Oh, okay. But I do think there are real benefits to having our specifications published on HL7 Canada in much the same way as everyone else publishes to the web page. Now, whether we also publish to Simplifier is another question, or whether we just go to Simplifier. I don't know what people's thoughts are, but that might be something everybody needs to think about and come back and discuss.
To your point, Lorraine, about the setup. So I just got a new laptop and I'm going through, and this is where it's kind of funny that Elliot has the same problem, because I thought it was a me thing because I'm trying to set up a new laptop. It would be great if there was a blessed Docker image that ran the fish and sushi tools, the IG Publisher tools, with instructions about how to set it up on Docker. And because there is a fair amount of hoops that you have to jump through to get Jekyll running and get sushi running and all these different things.
Yeah.
Which with simplifier.net, you just go in and start using it, right? But I don't think that that should be a technical hurdle. That's just, I've seen a couple Docker images, but I haven't actually used them, and I'm not really sure if they're just somebody's private work or if there's something that we could actually create and use if that was the direction that we wanted to go.
I think there's two. One is actually the one or the configuration used for the CI build.
Oh, okay.
And let me see if I can find it. At one point, I think I wrote a blog article about using it.
Because I think that that's probably the biggest frustration that people will have with using the fish notation is just getting from 0 to 1. After that, I really like Plant UML. I like being able to generate diagrams and not have to use a separate tool for that. Like, there's a lot of really good things built in there, and it is kind of the way that we should be doing things, but there's a barrier to entry.
Yeah. This is an old article I wrote, and it's actually not about creating your own Docker image, but it's about using the CI build image for publishing to places other than build.fhir.org.
Right.
So if you want to publish to your own github.io site, then you can use this. That's not quite what you're asking about, though. There is a blessed or a pseudo blessed Docker image that does have everything set up. I don't know where that is, though.
Yeah, we use that in BC. So the BC, the two iGuides that Lorraine and I work on in BC, we use the GitHub Actions, so that anytime a check-in's done, and yeah, it pulls down the publisher Docker image and then does an update to the publisher and runs. So in the forum, I'll post. I don't have the link. I don't know where well, yeah, it's actually just a Docker. I can post the link to it once I find it on the forum.
Yeah.
And we just actually modified our actions to emulate HL7's CI builds. So when we make specific branches of our different guides, it'll publish those branches as well as the master. So it's multiple branches to one set of GitHub pages. So we just made that change.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the advantages I think of, well, Simplifier obviously has this of pulling to and coming from GitHub, but like I've got HL7 guides where I've got people working on specific markdown pages, and so it's all in GitHub, and they just make the change in GitHub, or push their changes up, or depending on how technical they are, and then like you said, the IG publisher just runs automatically, either if GitHub Actions or on HL7 with the CI build framework that they've got, and so it's really nice that way.
Yeah. One of the things about IG Publisher versus Simplifier is the level of familiarity, the how technical your authors are. If you've got people who are more familiar using what you see is what you get editor, then you go with Simplifier. If you have people who are very familiar with like building code, then using IG Publisher just fits right into that mindset.
Yeah, it also means that your source files, etc., are managed just like any other code application. And so we found as we were looking at what we're doing in BC, working into the development team's regular development paradigm and style, made Fish a much closer fit to their workflow.
Yeah. So we're at time. Sean, you're gonna post your Docker image link to the forums. I've got a bunch of links around using IG Publisher, all the Confluence pages and other things that you would need to be familiar with. I'll publish that to the forum. If I get time and I can figure out what the problem we ran into was, I will, I'll talk with Mike and Sheridan, and we'll either come back and finish this off, or I'll just do a recording to show what it looks like in the end. But thank you everyone for your time. Any last minute questions? Great. Have a good day, and we'll talk to you next week or in 2 weeks.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thanks so
very
much,
much.
Elliot. Really appreciate
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was really good. Thank you.
it. Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.